Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. I am your disheveled goblin host Daniel Green, and today I got my Mr. Rogers sweater on, and I'm in the mood to paddle AI booty, because we have had a headline drop that we're going to be doing a bit of a deep dive into here today for the first story of the week. And that is because it has been announced that the new publisher Spines aims to, quote, disrupt the publishing space by putting out 8,000 books in 2025 with the assistance of, you guessed it, artificial intelligence. Now, I know what you might be thinking immediately. Isn't it a bit strange for a publisher to be shooting for a quantity benchmark of publication and not a quality benchmark? Oh boy, we will get into that. But what Spines is promising to do for anyone who's willing to pay their price mark of between $1,200 to $5,000 is to proofread, produce, publish, and distribute your book, all with the assistance of artificial intelligence. And they are claiming that they will take the publication process from its current 6 to 18 month span, if you're in the trad space, to just 3 weeks. Oh boy. Now, when it comes to what made Niv, one of the founders of this company, go ahead and decide to give it a go, was apparently they were already working for a hybrid publisher and had the realization that they had two options: either to be made irrelevant by AI or to lead this opportunity in the world. Wow. How inspirational. Now, what you might be thinking is that this just seems like an even worse version of a vanity press where you pay a bunch of money, you don't even get the benefit of having a human editor who can intentionally preserve your authorial voice go over your text, and instead you have an algorithm that at best can do decent line edits and at worst can entirely just numb your manuscript into feeling like every other piece of work that has just been edited by artificial intelligence. But don't worry, Niv came through and has promised us that Spines isn't self-publishing. It's not a traditional publisher, and it's not a vanity publisher. He claims we are a publishing platform, and that's a new concept. Niv, I want you to explain to me very slowly how you are not a vanity press. I want you to understand what a vanity press is. I want you to define it for us all. And then I want you to make the case of why Spines is not just a vanity press with an AI gloss over it. Do it slowly, choose your words carefully, and know that you are charging $1,200 to $5,000 for someone who does not need to meet any benchmark or criteria for you to get their book out.
It would be so embarrassing for anyone involved in it.
Right.
Now, for those of you who may not know what a vanity press is, it is a publishing house that you pay to publish your book. They charge you to do everything that this platform, I'll even give you that, is charging you to do. I also would like to make clear, publishing platforms, not a new concept. I would say KDP is a publishing platform. Campfire has been moving into the publishing platform space. That is not new. I will say, so nicely of them, they are letting authors keep 100% of their royalties, as well as the rights to their work once the books are out in the world. Which, as I really like the bookseller article, it gets a bit sassy. They even say, sounds a lot like self-publishing with just an AI system in between you and publishing it. That's my observation there. I think that's the case. But when it comes to the concept of obviously taking work from proofreaders, designers, all of the stuff that this Spines is claiming to handle for you, don't worry. Niv has thought that over carefully and specifically said, we are not here to replace human creativity. We focus on books that are written by humans who are looking for the most efficient and up-to-date way to get their manuscripts published and distributed worldwide. So you know how they asked a question here about how there are people whose jobs you could be affecting? And you know how your answer didn't address any of that. That's all I wanted to say there. Wow. And the bookseller article, continuing its wonderful writing, shout out to Matilda Battersby, I love you. They point out that the average author's earnings were about £12,330 in 2006, dropping to about £7,000 in 2022. So the value of forking up to $5,000 to get your book looked at by artificial intelligence doesn't seem smart to me, in my opinion, allegedly. Sorry, these matching shirt looking goofballs do strike me personally, allegedly, as the type who might lawyer up over some honest feedback in a video. But the fucking funniest part of this article does not come from Matilda. I'm sorry, you did do a great job, but instead does come from Niv, who then goes on to say, it's a self-branding process. Let's say you want to leave a mark or a legacy. Most people publish a book not because they want to make a living from that, it's their hobby. Either they must become very, very famous to get a traditional publishing deal, or they will have to invest tens of thousands of dollars. I want to help bring books to the masses. I'm sorry. Every single idea communicated in that series of words feels like it was generated by AI when asked, please string together the most wrong observations about publishing and being an author you feasibly can. Oh my God, let's break this down line by line, shall we? It's a self-branding process, but we're not a vanity press. Let's say you want to leave a mark or a legacy, but we're not a vanity press. Most people publish a book, not because they want to make a living from that, it's their hobby. Excuse me? No. What an insane thing to say. What the? Oh, okay, let's really try and follow this here. Because Niv is saying that most people who are trying to make it as an author don't have any kind of care or investment. That's something they're pouring thousands of hours of their life into, benefits them financially in a great way. It's just a fun hobby. And you should trust us, the people who view your manuscript, your passion project, something you've poured thousands of hours into, as a hobby, to coach an AI to treat it as well as the editors you could actually afford to hire in the same price range. They're so shooting themselves in the foot with their own words.
But we're not a vanity press.
What? Yeah, it's a hobby for sure. Every single person who I've met who is writing books as a hobby, guess what they want to do full time eventually? And to then add the fear angle of either they need to be very, very famous or pay tens of thousands of dollars to make it in the industry is just wildly insulting and wrong. I actually just talked about this concept in an interview with my publishing agent, Seth, and let's just play a clip here.
I represent a lot of traditional sci-fi and fantasy. Anne Leckie, Mary Robina Kowal, Becky Chambers, River Solomon, P. Jelly Clark, Shishin Liu, The Three-Body Problem. What is really cool about debuts who come from nowhere is that there's no track. There's no baggage. Mm-hmm. When I send it to a publisher, I call up an editor and I say, I just read the best thing I've read in blank, whatever I'm saying, it doesn't matter, but they're excited to break that out. That debut breakout is as valuable as a platform. It is actually, I want you to hear that. Being a debut author with no background is valuable. If you are an author with a platform who has sold 5,000 copies of a book that you self-pubbed, that is less valuable than an unknown author with no copies. If you have self-pubbed 75,000 copies, that is different. Mm-hmm. And that makes sense, but you're already succeeding in a different place, right? But I want you to recognize there's a value to the unknown quantity, because a publisher can build up a story around it and can just focus on the book.
And I really want to hammer home what Seth was talking about there and directly push back against the narrative that Niv is trying to construct. There are still tons of success stories coming for all kinds of genres from people
who don't have platforms because they wrote a damn good book and they mastered their craft. It seems like there is this myth growing that you have to have a platform to then become a success afterward, and that is not true. But because people think that, predatory individuals, not that I'm alleging anything, try to use it to be, well, the system's rigged against you, so you should just pay us money to get you that lead that isn't as big a lead as a lot of people think. It's really gross to me.
In my opinion, allegedly, this individual has absolutely no grasp on the actual publishing community at all. They have what seems to be very horrid views on how this industry works as a whole. And instead of trying to affect some actual positive change or do something nice, they are using the veneer of trying to bring books to the masses to line their pockets while charging people $1,200 to $5,000 to do something. And this is my favorite, most important part. They could accomplish on their own in a matter of weeks for a fraction of the cost. Listen very closely, because this is something that people can take the wrong way. I, unrelated to my own personal writing, due to research of wanting to understand how AI edits books, so I'm not actually just talking out of my ass, have been messing around with stuff like ChatGPT. I've been wanting to understand, can it actually edit a book in a way that will make it better? I admit I'm not blanketly against AI in the publishing creative process. For line edits, I think it's pretty solid. I don't think it should be your final line editor. I still think a human should take a look at it, but it's okay to be assisted, especially if you have a disability like dyslexia myself, to get some assistance from artificial intelligence. Do not let it do the final hyper important authorial voice crafting writing. Do not let it define your prose. Do not take away your ability to grow an authorial voice and get better. But also, everything Spines is offering you, I could do with my like $20 ChatGPT subscription myself in a few days of work and effort. The idea of charging someone $5,000 to have an AI tool proofread their script is absolutely insane. And I can't reiterate enough that publishing and distribution are something that trad and indie authors have handled for them. There are criticisms of the systems in place, but what value, in my opinion, allegedly, Spines is adding is absolutely minimal. Now, the final counter to this I could see someone saying is, well, Daniel, there is some form of value being added because you are getting a publisher, right? And that publisher's mark adds value to whatever book you gave to them and put through this process. Well, bet your butts the bookseller addressed that, because Matilda is a fabulous journalist. She followed up with them to try and find out what books of theirs have been successes. And in response, Niv claimed that they've had several successes and even claimed to go on and be bestsellers. But in a follow-up email where Matilda asked for names of titles, they were sent 7 that Spines claims were bestsellers. And when asked for actual sales figures, the response was, well, that data is private and belongs to the author. Fair, but let's just do some basic investigation, Matilda says, because she's awesome. Of the 6 titles the bookseller could find for sale on Amazon, 1 had more than 70 reader ratings, with the others ranging from 7 to 22. Now, I need to say this next part very carefully. I'm not alleging anything, but observing the 7 to 22 on average number, it occurs to me that that's roughly the size, happens to be, of a small office being instructed to rate and review a product. I'm not alleging anything. I'm simply quantifying what amount that seems to be within the range of, allegedly. God bless Spines, because it wouldn't be an AI startup without them having a promised feature that's not available yet. Because you called it, they want to get into the audiobook space, but they're just not ready for that yet. Will they ever be? Now, I really want to end this by just telling you what Spines has been screaming about themselves this entire article, and that's how they plan on making money. Because, as the headline even says, they plan on having 8,000 books published next year, which, just keeping at the absolute bottom tier of $1,200, will net them a cool 9,600,000 buckaroos. Gosh darn, that's a good amount of money to make some of those investors that are mentioned in this article really happy, I imagine. But it's kind of strange, and some may say a red flag, that seems to be so much of what you're dependent on for revenue, and then you're waiving 100% of the royalties of the book you put out, almost like you don't ever think there'll be a significant source of revenue or income. But I'm sure they do genuinely believe in these AI tools that have absolutely just been trained on authors' work who are aware of and consenting to that AI being trained and fairly compensated. Because, man, if all of this looks like how it looks and is how it seems, then gosh darn, that would make you a vanity press, wouldn't it? When it comes to anyone who wants to disrupt a space, I've just about had it. And if you add in AI to that, I become like lethal in my mentality towards it, because I'm just so sick of lazy cash grab, in my opinion, allegedly, efforts to take art, to take the creative process and efficiency it into being somehow better, when that's not how art works. And I want to make clear, the final value that I haven't really addressed that they're putting forward here of shrinking the publication time frame down is also, in my opinion, an absurd misunderstanding of the publication process. Your book isn't just sitting that entire time. It is being edited by a human who has experience in crafting and maintaining an author's voice. You are getting feedback from people who will have opinions on the structure of your story, whether it's a fiction fantasy title or even like a history textbook. The editing process where other minds come in and tell you how your book is being received is valuable. And if you have spent thousands of hours crafting a book, and for some reason the idea of being patient for a few months to maybe a year while it is received and fine-tuned revolts you, that's a problem. It's not a race. Art should not be a race. And it's amazing to me that I have to say that. It's like this sick flavor of FOMO is for some reason being poured in to the creative process, where it's like, well, if you don't get it out faster, are you missing out? No, not at all. I love so much that just the basic question of, have you had bestsellers? Prove it. Just.
Well, frankly, it's embarrassing.
This, though. Ugh. But this is going to take us into the cover reveals of the day, because we are going to be looking at one of my favorite covers I have seen in a minute, and that is going to be Automatic Noodle by Annalie Newitz, with art by Eric Nyquist and design by @C Fultzer. And this is an amazing pitch if you are interested in cozy speculative fiction, because this story is apparently about abandoned service bots opening up their own restaurant in a near future sci-fi city. And yes, I really hope we see a lot of these ideas really richly explored. There's a ripe ground for cozy fantasy theming going on, where we have robots who maybe can't even taste the food, or perhaps they can, but it's different than humans, now involved with something that I think we as humans hold so close to our hearts, like food, cooking. I even think the cover's kind of hinting at some of this theming going on, where we have a robotic hand using chopsticks to pick up noodles. It's above, in a canister above, like a massive city sprawl. What a vibes art style as well. This one, massive success. 10 out of 10 cover, might be in my top favorites of the year. And I think it's creatively kind of bold. Like, I know it's a more pulled back art style. It's not like photorealistic or anything, but I think it's kind of, I don't know, to me, I would look at that on a shelf and curious right away. But this is going to take us to our next cover reveal of a day, which is going to be for a lit RPG series, published by Orbit. Love to see more recognition for this growing subgenre, and it is called Level Unknown by David Dalglish, with cover art by Alexander Gustafsson and cover design by Alexia E. Pieria. Release date, January 14th of 2025. And to be perfectly honest, I think this cover, pretty cool. Not going to be something I write home about, but it certainly conveys a whimsy of lit RPG, David and Goliath dynamic that is so prevalent in the genre. But there was actually a Q&A with the author, David Dalglish, released with this cover reveal, where he had some interesting comments to say about the concept, where he clarified that, one, he's actually written like 30 stories before. He is someone who seems to have been very busy in the space, but the concept for this story is actually, in Level Unknown, researchers on a space station above a barren planet discover an alien object they dub the Artifact. When they activate it, it projects the consciousness of their youngest member, Nick, into a world that is seemingly backwards in time, where the impossible is possible, with magic and monsters and living gods. When he dies, he wakes up in the space station, where he's been comatose during his adventure. When he sleeps, he returns to the world to try again, and what starts as an exploration into what they believe to be a time capsule of a barren world's past becomes a race against time as the threats that destroyed the previous civilization return anew, and the only place Nick knows to find answers are within the strange collapsing world of the Artifact. And for a lit RPG pitch, I think that's pretty banging, man. That's a good pitch for a lit RPG. I like the idea of like in a space station orbiting around a dead world, kind of existing in the aftermath of a civilization that you're like accessing an echo of. How various lit RPG series justify their existence can either be totally fumbled or a main hook of the series. And this one seems to be right up there with like Dungeon Crawler Carl in terms of just making me go, nice. But in some quickie news, if I haven't added enough books to your TBR, I am happy to say that the New York Times has released a list of 100 notable books released in 2024. So if you're an individual who has a preference to read more recently released stuff, this could be a wonderful way for you to browse quite a few speculative fiction titles that were included. Next news! And this next news is oh so exciting to see if you are a fan of one of the best games released within the fantasy genre in recent memory, and that is because Baldur's Gate 3 is set to get one of its largest updates since its release, which will, something I don't really care about, include a photo mode, but something I do care about, also going to include cross-play from consoles to PC and a new subclass for every single class. I thought I was going to come up with another word there, but no, it's a subclass for the class. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into them. For Bard, we are going to have the College of Glamour subclass, followed up by Barbarian's Path of Giants, Cleric's Death Domain, Druid's Circle of Stars, Paladin's Oath of the Crown, and the Fighter's Arcane Archer, which will then take us to the Monk's Drunken Master, the one I'm most interested in, as well as the Ranger Swarm Keeper, the one that I think I'm the most curious about. But don't forget that there will be a Rogue Swashbuckler, which I'm surprised wasn't already there. I'll stop commenting on them now. And then also the Sorcerer's Shadow Magic, followed up by the Warlock's Hexblades and the Wizard's Blade Singing. And I'm trying to finish writing Better Dead. I am at over 140,000 words, and this makes it hard to get to the needed like 160, 170 I'm shooting for this book. Way to add like one final temptation well, I'm coming close to the finish line of my first draft. Damn! But this is going to take us out of the video game news and into some manga news, because we have had the list of the best-selling manga of 2024 released. And this is going to be a little bit possibly exciting for fans, or upsetting if you like can't stand the idea of something selling better than your favorite, but like you should be cool with that. High tides raise all ships in manga right now, I think. I think the more popular any manga series get, the better for them all, because while it is like way more accepted like in the cultural vibe to be a manga fan, it's still got a little bit to go. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the top 10 list. Starting with number 10, we have Spy X Family with 2.7 million units sold, followed by My Hero Academia at 2.9 million, Haiku at 3 million, Kingdom at 3.2 million, Kaiju number 8 at 3.4 million, which I've started and do really like, Blue Lock at 3.8 million, The Apothecary Diaries at 3.7 million, if you round up, Frieren Beyond Journey's End at 5 million, if you round up, One Piece at 5.2 million, and Jujutsu Kaisen at 7.6 million. God, I need to check out that series, it seems. Holy smokes. But I'm also just happy to see One Piece so freaking high still on the charts. It has not had a whole lot of new stuff released, so neat for my personal favorite, manga. Yes. Ooh, Berserk. No, One Piece is my favorite. Berserk is closer to my heart, though. That's how I'm gonna put that.
Before we get into a super secret final story of the day after the Witcher news and the Blizzard news, I just wanted to say thank you everyone who said happy birthday. I'm officially 3-0. It hurts a little, but if you want to make it hurt a little less, we have our merch still on sale. This video, we have no sponsor for today's video, just brought to you by the merch. If you want to go to danielbgreen.com and pick up our best of the year drop, go ahead and check it out. Have a good one. Thank you again.
And then for the final news of the day, we're going to have a small batch of Witcher news, because not only did we get this new cover and this new library edition that's going to contain these Witcher stories, but also it has been confirmed that Witcher 4 has entered its full swing production over at CD Projekt Red. It still means it's probably 4 to 5, maybe even 6 years out from being released due to how CD Projekt Red develops their games, but we do know this is the Witcher game that we previously covered here on the channel, where they're planning to have Geralt, I almost just called him Gerald. They're going to have Geralt take more of a backseat narratively, and we know that because of the voice actor behind the character confirming it in an interview, where he is going to be involved in this game, just to a lesser capacity. And I personally kind of agree with that decision. The Witcher world, well, obviously is named after Witchers, and I think should have them at the narrative focus usually, definitely feels like it could move on from this character and benefit from that to an extent. Not only is the cast of supporting characters one of the best in fantasy, but the story of Geralt has come to an end. We know where it has ceased in the canon, and it seems like we've spent a lot of time just going in and filling in every possible avenue. I would like to see it kind of continue to grow on from Geralt and become something bigger and better, because I love this world so much, and while I think that character is incredible, there is a capacity for even more. But that's just my opinion. And before we get into the surprise end story of the day, my favorite story of the day, there's also just a really heartwarming piece that dropped over on the World of Warcraft YouTube channel. I know this is Blizzard, and there's all kinds of reasons to criticize them in general, but this highlight of a community within their World of Warcraft community, specifically for a guild for deaf players, is absolutely amazing. I think these are such incredible people, and if you just need something to make you feel a little warmer and fuzzier this week, go ahead and jump on over and watch that, because I love everything that they're doing. So inspiring. But then if you'd like to see me cover any fantasy news stories in the next week here on the channel, go ahead and just join the Discord server, where you have a bunch of awesome people talking fantasy all the time, and post any stories you'd like to see me covered in the Fantasy News channel. And now we have the big surprise reveal at the end of this video. That is right, I've gotten my Arc of Wind and Truth, which I will now be beginning to read. And I'm so excited to be the first content creator here on YouTube to bring you an official Wind and Truth drop sound test. It has been touted as Sanderson's thickest boy yet, so we shall be measuring that scientifically right now. From 1 foot up. It thunk good.